We now welcome special guest, good friend of the show, NBA reporter for ESPN, Chris Haynes, dressed up as a Fresno State fan for Halloween. And Chris, let's just get to the obligatory question we've been asking everybody. Favorite Halloween candy?
Snickers.
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 Is there even a close second place?
Not for me. Not for me, Snickers. And nowadays, I remember we got the mini-sized bite Snickers, but people have upgraded their game last 10 years or so. Because I see my daughters going trick-or-treating, they coming back with the full Snickers. They ain't getting those minis no more. They getting the whole bar.
That says something about the neighborhood you live in.
Well, I was going to say, you cover these players for the teams, so you got to have some clue where they might live. And I'm sure these players, I mean, they're probably not giving out the fun sizes, right?
No, they giving out a fun size, but no, I don't. I don't know if Dame is giving it. Even Dame, I don't know if Dame's giving out big size bars like that.
Yeah, you got to really commit if you're going to give out the king size bars. So take us through the last couple years. You were following the Cleveland Cavaliers last year. You're now the NBA reporter for ESPN. What are your duties for this season coming up?
Well, actually, I'm shadowing the Warriors for the next couple of weeks right now. ESPN based me in the Bay Area. Obviously, want to have a close following there. But now my obligation, I have a little bit more freedom than I had the past couple of years. And primarily, I was just a Blazer reporter, then a Cavaliers reporter. So now about 50% Warriors and 50% rest of the league. So that's something I always wanted to, get and venture off to, and it happened. So I'm thankful.
You look at the Warriors this season, and many people were surprised by the home opening loss to San Antonio. A lot of the players on the team are saying it's going to take time to adjust to having Kevin Durant on the squad. What do they really mean by that?
Well, they're going to mean because they're used to playing a free-flowing, electrifying game of basketball to where they don't have to run isolation sets. And a lot of times they don't. Steve Kerr said he really doesn't call plays, but he's had to call plays these last couple of games because you want to get Kevin Durant in isolation sets sometimes. And you've seen Durant the other night in Phoenix got to the line 16 times. That's a dimension that they never had over the last couple of years. And I think that's where he's going to pay dividends. And so it's just getting used to playing with a guy who demands the ball, and not just demands the ball for, looking for you, but looking for shots for himself.
How does he change how maybe Curry, Thompson, Draymond Green have to now play an approach? And is that an adjustment for them individually to really change how they go out there and prepare now?
Well, Curry and Draymond in particular, they have to adjust their game because they require the basketball. Draymond is, Mason Plumlee does a great job of, kind of incorporating Draymond's game, and that he's a facilitator at that position. But you have to be able to slow the game down, get KD the ball, and get out the way. They don't do that. It's all run and run. And one thing about the Warriors as well that I've noticed preseason in the first 3 games is that they really don't understand how to ride the hot hand. And that's been a little bit of an issue early on because it's whoever gets the open shot. Steph or Klay may hit 2 in a row, but then their offense is just so chaotic. Steve Kerr calls it control chaos, that whoever has an open shot for a split second is going to take it, and they don't have to think the game. Now it's going to have to understand to think the game, get the best shot for that possession.
So let me ask you this, Chris. If the ball found the hot hand before, just because of how they played and they flowed, and now you have a ball stopper, if you will.
At times,
Kevin Durant. And I'm not saying it in a bad way, but he can be a ball stopper. How does the team adjust? Because that's a huge chemistry challenge.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're going through now. That's why they got routed at home, 29 points in the opening nighter. Up against San Antonio. But that's what they're trying to figure out right now, because now, all of a sudden, they're having to think about, actually think on the court. So it's like they're not used to, hey, second guessing, should I take the shot? Let me find KD to make sure he's involved. They didn't have to do that because everybody, as long as the ball was moving, everybody's shooting and getting their points, everything was cool. And look, it's a great brand of basketball. But look, I will say this. In the NBA Finals, the finals I covered, Game 7, the Warriors didn't score in the final 4 minutes of that game. And as great as Stephen Curry is, as great as Klay is, they needed somebody who they can give the ball to, either get to the line or get an easy basket. Curry's not that guy. If his shot is not going, he's not that guy. That's where KD is going to help. Unfortunately for them, it's just going to be a learning curve along the way.
So let me ask you a follow-up question. Here in Portland, I mean, you were here and we're obviously here. You see the team chemistry here. You see the locker room. You're around guys. You understand how they interact with one another. You've been in Cleveland. You followed that team. And now you're around Golden State. Could you compare or contrast how those teams deal with adversity?
Tough answer you trying to get here, Holt.
Come on, man. We just talking on Courtside, man.
You've been in the locker rooms. We're just wondering. We're just talking basketball here.
It's very, very different locker rooms. Portland, everybody knows their role. You know, everybody loves playing for Coach Stotts. Well-respected coach. You got Damian Lillard, who has turned into one of the great leaders that we have in this league. And I've covered him on that curve of trying to get to that point. I think he's become that now. And so when you got guys that buy in and know their roles, it helps the locker room the influence. Now, Cleveland, that was a circus. That was a roller coaster every other day. You know, you don't know what LeBron was going to tweet. You don't know what he's going to say. You had teammates that they didn't understand. They didn't know if he was talking about them, all these subliminal shots. But LeBron was just so good of a basketball player that it really didn't matter about the outside things that he had going on or the outside distractions that he caused upon himself. So he was just so great and good that he could overcome that. Golden State Warriors, until an article came out by my colleague, at ESPN, Ethan Strauss, about Draymond Green's behavioral issues over last year. But you really didn't hear anything about the Warriors. Everybody is great with the media. Everybody. one thing I found out as well, too? The teams where the players are accessible to media and they're confined and they're allowed to talk to media, you don't really hear much negative stuff written about them. I think that's a trend. Cleveland, a little bit different. You got the media situation is set up where it's kind of like a barrier between media and players. And you heard, there's a lot of stories written about Cleveland, a lot of negative stories. I'm just throwing a link out there. I know I went off on a tangent, but those are probably the three different things of those teams. I think Portland Trail Blazers got a great thing going right now. You
had a chance to cast a vote or choice for Coach of the Year, and this was on ESPN. Who did you list as your Coach of the Year for this season? Coach Stotts, and I think he should have got it last year. When you look at nobody expected the Blazers to do that. Nobody. What they did last year, Damian Lillard took a step up. CJ McCollum really shown that he can produce on a high level for a full season. And then you had guys, man, I questioned some of the moves they made. I wasn't a believer in Aminu, and he definitely paid huge dividends in the postseason. But you look at what Stotts did, and I think he's one of the best coaches, and not the best coaches, with calling plays outside of timeouts. Coming from timeouts, man, he can draw up magic on that clipboard, man. And so that's my guy, and I think he has a real legitimate shot to do it again. We were just breaking down the sideline out of bounds play he called for the Blazers to send the game into overtime. Certainly a thing of beauty. What does this Blazers team need to do to earn Coach Stotts Coach of the Year? Because I don't think there's that surprise factor with this year's team anymore. Everyone expects them to be good and to be a playoff team. What does this team need to do to get Coach Stotts that Coach of the Year award? It may sound crazy, but I think he has a better chance to get it this year. I know I'm following the Warriors a lot now, but I don't know how they came away with that award last year. With the way the situation panned out. One coach coaching halfway, and I was split on it because I'm like, look, if it was just Kerr or Coach Walton on that list, on that ballot. If it was just one of them, then I understand it. But it was two of them, so for me it was hard. It was a hard decision to make. I'm like, so who do I reward? Do I reward the guy that coached in the first half or the second half? So that for me that canceled them out, and I put my vote in for Stotts. And so I think he has a better shot this year. Let me ask you about Coach Stotts. Get your opinion about this. As a player, I always felt like, and even as a coach, I felt like coaches didn't give or take confidence. That players' preparation put them in a position to play confidently. But every player that has played here for Coach Stotts has flourished, has developed, and has played with confidence. Why do you think that is? Well, I think when you have the support of your coaching staff, when you go out there and you're allowed to make mistakes and learn on the fly, I think that helps with confidence. I think that helps bring your game to another level. And you look at the Blazers have done a great job at developing their players. Alan Crabb, that's another guy I wasn't sure when I was here
if I would still be covering him in the league 3-4 years down the road. You know, it was just, I'm just keeping it real. I'm keeping it honest. And he's developing to a player, and he certainly got the paycheck to prove it. But I think what Coach Stotts does is that he makes sure that he has communication with those guys all the time. That's really important. As an NBA player, especially when you've gotten to get a lot of time early on, you want to know that you're still engaged, you're still part of the flow and process. You know, he has a great rapport with those guys. I think that helps in that transitions to on the court.
I can't let that comment about you wasn't sure about Allen Crabbe being in the league, because I know how confident a player you are, and I remember when Will Barton was here, you felt he couldn't guard you. I think we got video. I don't think
we're going to give you some time to think about that response. We're up against the break here, but when we come back, we'll have more with our friend Chris Haynes. He's in town as the Blazers get set to host the Golden State Warriors. You're watching Trailblazers Courtside here.
You something else.
Blazers getting set to take on the Golden State Warriors tomorrow night. Here's the next 5 games for the Blazers, all available on CSN, at Suns, at Mavericks, at Grizzlies, then Suns, as the Blazers continue their march through the Western Conference in the early part of this year. We're joined by our good friend, NBA reporter for ESPN, Chris Haynes. Chris, you mentioned you'll be following the Golden State Warriors for the next couple weeks. I'm curious. They pick up KD, and a lot of people say, oh, any team would pick up Kevin Durant, but they did have to give up some pieces to make room for KD. When you look at the players that left last year's team for Golden State, a team that went 73-9 and had the Cavs down 3-1 in the finals, what did they give up by getting KD?
Well, obviously, they lost. They couldn't afford to keep Spates and Barbosa, 2 prominent bench players for that team last couple of years, guys who came up big in crucial moments. And then as well, they lost their best rim protector, and one of the best rim protectors we have in the league, in Andrew Bogut. Now, Harrison Barnes, that guy, y'all seen how he played in the finals. I don't think they miss him one bit, especially the money he's making now. But that is the give and take when you're bringing on a superstar athlete to a 73-win team. You're going to change some things. You're going to have some influx, and I think that's what they're experiencing right now. But I can't knock. I mean, anytime you got a chance to get a KD or LeBron James, you virtually give up anybody to try to bring them on the team and see if it will work. If not work for on the court matters, maybe just business-wise for the franchise and organization. So I can't knock them, but definitely that's going to be something to look forward to. Their depth has definitely taken a hit.
Are they better off defensively this year?
No. I don't think so. Obviously, KD is more versatile, and he can guard multiple positions, and at times he can guard some of the bigger guys having this league. But no, when you're talking about defensively, man, Bogut was the anchor of that defense on the back end. Draymond Green definitely was himself, but you can't replace Bogut. They're not.
Chris, let me ask you this: championship style of play. I mean, for the last season or two, everybody's talking about the Warriors' style of play. It's so fun, it's so entertaining, it's so free, and everybody's shooting the 3. I thought Cleveland played like that a lot last year early in the season. But then when they got down 3-1, they went back to power basketball, physical basketball, get the ball to the rim basketball. Fast forward to this year, which style is the championship preferred style?
Well, I think with KD on that roster, I think you're going to start seeing some of what Cleveland was doing over the last couple of years. Because Cleveland did do that once they were down 3-1. But remember, even the year before that, they were pounding it when Cleveland was without Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. They were pounding and slowing the game down. And so, yes, while that fast-paced offense and everything's great, when you got great shooters like that, it worked. But still, in the playoffs, there's structure. And you have to be able, the game slows down, and you have to take each possession very critical. And Golden State Warriors didn't value possessions. You saw Stephen Curry, crucial point in that Game 7, last minutes of the game, throw that behind-the-back left-handed pass out there to Clay along the baseline, and it went out of bounds. You can't make that pass in that type of juncture when you haven't scored in the last 4 minutes. Little things like that about valuing possessions. And so now what they have to get into, like I said, it's about thinking the game now. Now it's not all about just instincts and playing fast. Now you got to think the game and say what's best for each possession. That's what KD is going to bring to the table.
Draymond Green said other teams are trying to punk the Warriors right now.
I don't know where that came from.
How does this team sort of handle being, from the outside perspective, the villains of the NBA, because a lot of people see the move they made with KD, and a lot of people aren't necessarily rooting for them to go 73-9 again.
I'll tell you right now, Cavaliers players right now are smiling saying, welcome to my world, because these last couple of years, they'll come to me, hey, see, man, why did Warriors get to do that? And y'all don't write anything negative about them. Why they get to pull that up? Why Draymond get to cuss everybody out in the locker room and nobody talks about it, blah, blah, blah. They were always harping on that last year. You can find that, I wrote about that countless times. But look, they are the villains. Nobody likes how Kevin Durant arrived to the Bay Area. And even though they play a lovable style of play, those admirers that they've accumulated over the last couple of years have went to detesters. Now, I will say this, that still can change over time, see how they progress, but they are villains. And we know Draymond talking about they're trying to punk them. And look, the scout report on the Warriors has always been rough them up. Get physical with Steph, physical with Clay, because they're running all these screens. So I don't think teams are changing. It's only been 3 games. So I don't understand how teams are trying to punk you all of a sudden. So that's what it is. I mean, they're going to have to get used to it, but they can't keep making statements like that because people are going to take it for whining.
Bulletin board material. Let me just ask you this. So the Trailblazers, 44 wins a year ago, a surprising 44 wins, probably if you look widen the lens and how the league looked at it. Now, securing the core and strengthening the bench, are they a team that is hunted or are they a team that is hunting?
That's a difficult question. I would say a little bit of both, because I think teams still want to go at them hard because they want to see if they're legit. Is this sustainable? Was this one season? I still don't think teams consider them the top, echelon teams in the league. That's for Dame and CJ and those guys to prove. But I will say this, I think the respect factor now that you have from Stotts as a head coach in his league, Dame as a leader, and not just a borderline all-star, but a bona fide all-star now. He's been making it these last couple of years by injury reserve placement. That guy's a real deal. And you look at CJ and those guys, and I'm big on Mason Plumlee, guys. I know he's not getting his extension done right now. I know that's for good business reasons, but I just like what he brings to the table, man. He's a versatile guy who's great at decision making. You don't find great decision making at that position. So I think the sky's the limit for him.
When you look at this Blazers team, and Steve Kerr even alluded to it last year, you've really got to respect this team. As they get set for this regular season, what's sort of the MO about this team? You said other teams are going to try and attack them, but what are other teams cognizant of when they get ready to play the Blazers? What are they really trying to keep their eye on?
Well, you take, as far as when they're about to compete,
yes,
you take the head off, you got a chance, and that head is Dame. And look, Dame does a lot for this team. The ball is in his hands a lot. I know Evan Turner is brought on to alleviate some of the ball handling responsibilities, playmaking responsibilities. You see him still trying to find his niche. The jury is still out on him. But you take Dame out, Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan got a commercial talking about we got to take those 2 out. That's it. You take those 2 out right there, Dame and CJ. And it's rare that you have 2 guards, especially 2 guards 6'3" and under, that's leading your team and helping produce your team. So they're doing it, and they're the reason why they're at this spot.
Damian Lillard with the game winner over Kenneth Faried right there, the little teardrop floater. And with the Blazers bringing so much of their roster back this year, and you've been in locker rooms, how much does it help having good chemistry in the locker room? You hear that term, chemistry. How much does that benefit a team during this grind of an NBA season? Yeah,
this is huge. Now, this could bring me back to the Warriors as well. Chemistry, continuity, and time spent is huge. That pays huge dividends on the court because now you know where guys are going to be. You can make a bounce pass with your head, turn to the left, because you know that guy is going to be there. Because that's what comes along with playing alongside each other. The problem is sometimes that talent you may have, and they may have great chemistry, but sometimes that talent is going to only get you so far. And so sometimes you may have to tinker and bring somebody on. Now, I don't know if the Blazers are in that place right now where they can decide that, but I think the Warriors, it's still hard for me to make that case on the Warriors why they get KD, because anytime you win 73 games in a season, you don't need nobody. you don't need nobody.
Let me ask you a question about chemistry as it relates to the media.
Okay.
Because you talked about Cleveland and what that climate was like.
Yeah.
And Golden State, and Draymond tends to be the guy that may have something to say that everybody may have to defend him for. Mm-hmm. You don't have that in the Portland Trailblazer locker room. You don't have a guy saying something on Twitter in the media. Now the whole team has to rally around, defend, and protect.
Yeah.
To me, that's a distraction. What has been your experience with that?
Well, it can be a distraction because Draymond, he's so boisterous, and he'll state his opinion regardless of what the situation is. I will say this. From a media standpoint, we like guys to be candid. We like them to be open. For our job, that helps us, and the fans get a better idea of what the player is really all about. Because I've covered a lot of players in this league that they'll tell me one thing off the record. I want to trade. I want to get out of here. I want to do this. And then I put that mic to them. So what do you want? Oh, I just love it around here. Everything's so fine and that. So players can never be 100% transparent, obviously. But look. I like it. It's good. But to the immediate element, hearing Jim Taylor and Colin Romer, this is my foundation. This is the first team I covered, first 5 years. And they allow you to do your thing. They allowed you to talk to players, get the players like LaMarcus Aldridge. I was able to talk to him every day. LaMarcus only talking to the media about once a week in San Antonio because he got it like that now. And that can create some friction. That can create some tension and things like that. So, media personnel, we are human. You got to understand that. You want everybody to dot the I's, cross the T's, and do it right, but they're human. And so I found that if you have a healthy relationship with players, media staff, your coverage is going to be much more balanced.
Looking at the rest of the league, Chris, are there any teams that you think are poised to have a big improvement this season and really climb up the rankings as opposed to where they were last year?
That's a good question.
That's my job.
No, because really though, really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because I think with Kevin Durant going to the Warriors, man, it's kind of like messed up everybody's regular season. I know if you're a diehard Portland Trail Blazers fan, you're going to follow them closely. The same with if you're a Laker fan, you want to see their progression. But in many ways, that move over there, because really everybody thinks it's a two-team race, Cleveland and Golden State. But I will give you a team. I like Memphis. I like Memphis. I like once Chandler Parsons get healthy, I think they can do some things. But I don't really see a team out there that's just really going to blow up from non-playoff team to in the middle of the conference. I just don't see that. And for a lot of reasons, maybe I'm not doing my research more so because I think most people really believe it's a two-team race when it's all said and done.
Well, to that point, the last two NBA Finals, though, injuries or suspensions or something has happened where as long as you got there somehow or even got to the playoffs, anything can happen. So is the mentality in the league really it's a two-team race and we're just building for the future, or are teams really trying to poise themselves to play their best basketball when playoff time comes, knowing that, hey, anything can happen in the playoffs?
Anything can happen, and obviously the Portland Trail Blazers gave the Warriors a fight. They gave them a battle. It was tough. But look, man, in the Eastern Conference, it's Cleveland, period. There's no team out there. It's Cleveland. Over here, you got a little bit of competition. You got San Antonio. You have Portland. The Clippers, the Clippers ain't going nowhere. They're always going to be pretty. I would like to see competitive basketball all around. I would like to see all the talent stretched out. But we don't have that. And so as of right now, it is what it is.
Chris, thanks so much for joining us. Certainly enjoy the game tomorrow night. It's a pleasure having you here. For our wonderful crew, Phil Beard, Kyle Ratoza, Steve Radford, Stud Muffin, John McConnell, Corey Griffin, Buck and Curry, Bruce Williams, Justin Moulton, Rich Patterson, myself, and Michael Holt. Thank you so much again for joining us for this edition of Trailblazers Courtside. Tomorrow, Blazers taking on the Golden State Warriors. We'll see you there.